KPIX5 has learned some pot from Bay Area dispensaries contains a powerful pesticide so toxic, even the tobacco companies won't touch it. Only on 5 tonight, Wilson Walker puts local pot to the test.
You cannot tell by looking at your cannabis whether it's contaminated with pesticides, residual solvents, molds.
Want to know exactly what's in your marijuana?
This particular instrument here is a liquid chromatograph.
Just ask the team at Steep Hill Labs.
We see that cannabis that comes through the lab is often would have to be destroyed in other states.
And that's because states like Oregon, Washington, Massachusetts, and Colorado have either set limits on or banned certain pesticides for use on marijuana. And tonight, we're going to focus on just one of them.
But yeah, so myclobutanil is a fungicide. It's for mildew, molds and mildew.
Myclobutanil, often sold under the name Eagle 20, is approved for use on things like grapes and hops because if you happen to eat some of it, it's considered harmless. But if you set fire to myclobutanil,
if you smoke it, if you heat it, it actually can produce a substance called hydrogen cyanide. Hydrogen cyanide is very toxic to humans.
That's exactly why the federal government prohibits the use of Eagle 20 on tobacco. But remember, California currently has no such pesticide rules when it comes to medical marijuana.
As California faces what is predicted to be one of its worst droughts in recorded history, water managers are seeing record increases in water theft, leaving communities angry and police playing a continuous game of whack-a-mole.
I don't know who breaks my water lines and does all this chaotic crap they do, but I mean, they steal constantly up here.
The San Bernardino water manager says she's frustrated by the lack of authority to deal with water theft.
This plot is about an acre of marijuana just right in the middle of the reserve. When you see it like this, you really get a sense of all the threats that this forest has to face.
Not a single person has ever been prosecuted for illegal deforestation or marijuana cultivation in San Rafael.
California was the first state to legalize medical marijuana. When labs started reporting that they were finding high levels of pesticide residues, the LA city government covertly acquired and then tested 3 samples from dispensaries and found that 2 of the 3 samples did have exceedingly high pesticide levels, up to 1,000 times the legal limit.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Red Lavender here, and today I'm back with another anti-capitalism, true crime, deep dive video topic. Today I want to do the topic of pure evil, the legal and illegal cannabis trade industry, a growing environmental concern. Before we get started, disclaimer, I will not be talking about the drug trade or big pharma or prisons or any of that stuff. The point of this whole entire video is to only show off the environmental downsides and biodiversity loss caused by this industry. So, before we get started, all my YouTube videos that relate to this topic, like the drug trade or big pharma or prisons, the videos are going to be on the screen, and if I do have room, I'll put them in the description down below, but you can always find the related videos on the screen right now if you'd like to check those videos out on that topic, on the drug side of the topic, or like big pharma or the prisons or whatever. Those are going to be on the screen right now, so let's get started into this YouTube video topic. Legal and illegal cannabis, a cause for growing environmental concern. Legislation of cannabis for medicinal and recreational use is expanding global trend across the world and the United States. While the illicit market continues to feed large swaths of demand, cannabis, marijuana, pot, bud, grass, or herb, no matter what its name is, this go-to drug has long been associated with the essence of green and connected to eco-friendly movements, yet the legislation for medicinal and recreational use gathers pace globally. Concerns are rising over the environmental impacts and the effects that this industry and trade as it emerges from the shadows of its illicit past. Cannabis is the world's drug of choice, consumed by an estimated 200 million people annually, according to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. A growing number of countries worldwide have passed legislation legalizing its use. Malta became the first European country to fully legalize it, and Germany may soon follow suit, with potential rippling effects across the European Union. In the United States, legal cannabis is expected to generate as much as $43 billion by 2025. Meanwhile, the U.S. illegal cultivation continues feeding large swaths of demand to the tune of $65 billion in 2020. With legalization, analyzing environmental impacts, it's becoming easier as compared to tracking the effects of the illicit trade. As seen with pesticide misuse, grow operations have caused or exacerbated land use and habitat issues in the areas where they are located at. Many have caused significant damage to the landscape, including ground cover and erosion impacts, soil erosion, newly cut roads, diversion of water courses, and drainage of wetlands. Because of this, some states, such as Colorado, have taken steps to favor indoor growing operations and discourage outdoor growing. Overuse of freshwater is a looming global crisis issue, with scientists declaring the planetary boundary for freshwater transgressed in April 2022. Unsustainable pressure on supplies and shaky regulation and governance, coupled with seriously deepening drought conditions in some places due to the capitalism-caused climate change crisis, along with drastic land use change, have heightened its global water supply problem. Critics counter that while cannabis production is perhaps a small consumer of water, the potential for harm is still present. It's all about the location where it is grown and the fact that it tends to be grown in water-limited environments. But in states such as California, which had battled worsening drought conditions, pushed deeper into the red, intensifying climate change crisis, every drop of water matters. Projections are that extreme droughts in California are only going to worsen over the incoming years, becoming longer, and stressing water supplies even further. From California indicate that the absence of regulation, cannabis irrigation can significantly exacerbate water stresses in drought-prone regions. Reads a review published last year during the drought periods when streams flows are low or start to see streams drying up. Even small withdrawals from the environment can really accelerate the drying processes of these systems. Certainly in drought years, the impacts are likely to be greater. Water divisions and theft, mostly by illicit growers, are frequently cited as additional persuasive issue in many drought-stricken states, including California, Oregon, and Nevada. In latter, there are estimated 3,500 to 4,000 unpermitted cannabis growers. A recent report by the Illinois Valley Soil and Water Conservation District estimated that unlicensed growers were responsible for using 414 million gallons of water in Illinois Valley in 2021. Pesticides and rodenticides used to kill insects and rodents are often used on cannabis sites on public and private lands, impacting local native wildlife and biodiversity have already been noted, but the long-term effects on the ecosystems as a whole are still remain unknown. Species such as the Pacific fisher are riddled with these chemicals. Around 80% have been found to contain them. Further research has shown species such as the endangered northern spotted owl and the barred owl are also been affected by this. Away from public lands, the tendency to grow on private land in remote areas is a biodiversity concern. A study in 2018 investigated the expansion of cannabis cultivation in Northern California, noting that between 2012 and 2016, cultivation boomed by 58%, with 80 to 116% increases in cultivation near ecologically sensitive areas. Experts say that forests in Madagascar are being burned and cleared primarily to make space for fields of marijuana and other crops. The scale of the biodiversity loss is immeasurable. Conservationists add that many of the forested areas are so remote that their botany, science, flora, and fauna have not been yet surveyed. Tanzania Reserve is supposed to protect a large portion of this forest. However, satellite data and imagery shows Tanzania is being cleared and deforested at a rapid rate. Scientists say if this deforestation continues, it'll fragment the reservoir's well-connected forests and threaten the animals that live there, many of which are endemic, which means they're not found anywhere else on this world. The satellite data indicates that the rate of the tree cover loss increased from 2019, and even during the rainy season, which is not even a peak time for clearing or deforestation data for April, includes and may be accelerating further as the rainy season comes to an end. The geography beneath the forest loss is still expanding, with farmers apparently assessing more areas. Most of the deforestation appears to be in valleys, as higher areas will be more difficult to access and are often too cold and wet to farm. Much is at stake if the reservoir losses tree cover, scientists say. Tanzania's rich biodiversity includes at least 8 species of lemur, at least half of them which are already threatened and endangered. The reservoir is also full of locally endemic plants and animals. For example, there are at least 25 amphibians and reptiles that have been found only in the reservoir of the border of Tanzania region. Herpetologists say that many of those, such as the 2 leaf-tailed geckos, have only recently been described in literature. A well-known 2008 study published in the Global Change Biology, Radworthy, showed that Tanzanian reptiles and amphibians were moving upslope as their environment warmed due to the cataclysm caused giant climate crisis. Some of the first scientific evidence that tropical animals are already moving to higher ground. The reservoir's topography, what Radworthy referred to as evidential diversity, animals as freedom, but he warns that it may not be able to continue moving if their habitat is fragmented. Yet, in a country that's lost about half its primary forest since the 1950s, Tanzania Reserve has been, until recently at least, is in remarkable good shape, projected by its remoteness and its mountainous terrain. The main cause of land clearing in this protected area is illicit exploitation of cannabis, marijuana. It is a very isolated area, which makes a great spot to open up, cannabis shop. It's a very, isolated area where you can grow this stuff. Protected areas in Paraguay hit hard by black market illegal marijuana farming. Tango, Paraguay, the upper Para-Atlantic forest, is one of the world's most endangered forests. The ecoregion has been almost entirely cleared in Brazil, and Argentina holds the largest remaining areas of connected habitat. In Paraguay, studies estimate less than 10% remains, mostly fragmented forest islands scattered across a largely unprotected landscape. Agriculture is the main driving force of the deforestation in Paraguay. 797 forest brazils were destroyed in Paraguay's portion of the upper Para-Atlantic forest between 2015 and 2020. Investigation by Manabe and Lee Naka found marijuana farms carved out several national parks and reservoirs in eastern Paraguay. Despite a deforestation ban enacted in 2004, eastern Paraguay lost approximately 1.2 million acres, about 3 million acres of tree cover between the years of 2001 and 2018. According to satellite data from the University of Maryland, park rangers from eastern Paraguay estimate that at least 2,300 acres, about 5,805 acres of marijuana crops have been planted within 4 national parks and reservoirs in Paraguay's upper Para-Atlantic forest. When walking along San Félix trails, you can see the native trees that have grown here for over 200 years, such as the Paretta iropod tree in the past few years. However, researchers say marijuana crops have supplemented this native forest and damaged wildlife habitat. Illegal cannabis cultivation threatens Nigeria's forests and chimpanzees. The world's highest deforestation rate in Nigeria. The execution of 8 environmental activists, including a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, and ongoing turmoil surrounding oil operations in the Niger River Delta has created notoriously disreputable environmental record for the West African country of Nigeria. Nigeria Cameroon chimpanzee, a chimpanzee subspecies that is considered the most threatened of the 4 subspecies and is listed as endangered by the IUCN Red List. During the survey, researchers had a first-hand look at the effects of the marijuana boom. Half the deforestation occurring in these reserves from 2010 to 2012 appeared to be the result of cannabis cultivation and farming. Concealed within the forest, marijuana growers clear-cut and often burn large patches of land to plant their crop. Because the plants need a full 12 hours of sunlight, the canopy and all the plants above it must be removed completely. Habitat is immediately lost, and surrounding biodiversity forest is weakened by edge effects and increased foraging pressures from displaced wildlife. Other issues such as air pollution, a heavy reliance on plastic pollution, and plastic as in the industry of the legal industry of marijuana, aka the legal cannabis industry, nutrient emissions from nitrogen and phosphorus-rich fertilizer use, and questions over the potential environmental impact of cannabis metallurgies and wastewater compounds. These challenges and ever-present unseen illegal market complicates the matter further. Marijuana in medical dispensaries or in retail stores is sold in many forms, including cigarettes, oils, resins, and edible products like brownies, cookies, or gummies, aka Scooby Snacks. The plastic litter in the form of doob tubes, macula, or other plastic snatchets or pouches are spent cannabis oil vape cartridges. Makeup plastic are already getting kicked to the curb in cities where marijuana sales are legal. There's like a plastic pollution crisis of marijuana products.